Hello, my name is Darren Thomas, and I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. In this particular video, we're going to be going over some more tips and tools that you can use when you're using R Markdown, which is, of course, a tool or a resource inside RStudio for generating reports. So we're going to learn about how to insert images, how to format the dating, if you will, loading packages and things of that nature, and also putting code inside text, and also how we can name code chunks, which is really valuable when you start getting into developing table of contents and other things of that nature. So let's go ahead and see what we can learn. All right, so you can see I'm inside R Markdown. Everything's already set up. In the upper left-hand corner, I have my R Markdown file is blank. In the lower left-hand corner, I have my console output, and then off to the right, I have my viewer so that I can see the output when I knit my actual R Markdown folder. So the first thing we're going to do is insert the YAML header. We're going to do that first. So I'm just going to show you this, just copy and paste it in. All right, so we've seen this before. You got to have those 3 dashes. You got to close it with 3 dashes in line 6. And then you're going to have your various information. You can put other things in here besides this. But we're going to start with, of course, a title, R Markdown Basics. The author is ERT. That's short for Educational Research Techniques. Now, this date stuff, I'm going to come back to this after I explain some further things, but I'm going to show you how this works in a moment. And then our output is, of course, going to be an HTML document, which is going to appear to the right. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to insert an image. So let me just go ahead and show this to you. So here's our first little trick, and I'm just gonna put this little insert image, put a heading in there for purposes. So in order to insert an image, you have to, of course, start with this exclamation point, which means like do not include it, I guess you can say. And then you have your square brackets, and then inside parentheses, you have the actual link from wherever it came from. So this is a link from the internet. You can also link it to documents inside your R working directory or wherever you want it to come from. It's up to you. But this image is taken from the internet. And so we can go ahead and run this. You'll be able to see it. They want me to save it. Give me a second. Okay, so it's running. And so that's the image right there. It's kind of big and kind of ugly, but you get the basic idea of how it works. And so we got our title here, the author, the date. Again, I'll explain the date in a second. And then I have a heading here. And then I have this little picture right here. And of course, I can, if I wanted to, I can include stuff inside the brackets here if I wanted to, but we're not going to do that. So that's how you're able to insert images. So you can see you have the same flexibility, almost like a Word document, if you will, in terms of what you can do. Now for our next trick, I'm going to show you how you can insert R code inside a paragraph, if you will. And I think I've talked about this before, but I'm going to focus really on formatting the date. So this code, as you can see here down in lines 11 and 12, this is for formatting the date. And so we've talked about in a prior video how you can insert R code inside text. So you put the back tick, and what I mean by back tick is it's that little tick next to your number 1 on your keyboard, right above the tab, R. Then, of course, you put your code right here and you close it out. So what I'm doing here is I'm using the function sysdate right here. And I'm going to format it using, I think this is month, day, and year. That's what that is right there. And the percentage sign, it could be capital or lowercase, depending on what you want it to be. But it's better if you just look at this and not make it mysterious. So let's just take a look at that. Takes a moment for it to knit all together because it's trying to access the image from the internet. And so if you can see down here at the bottom, you can see we have the date, and YAML header is June 7, 2023 as the example. So when you have the percentage sign, capital B, is going to be for the full month. And then you have lowercase percentage, lowercase d, that's going to be the date. And then of course, capital Y here is going to give you the full year. That's kind of what's happening right there. And so this one includes the format function as a wraparound. That's what's happening. So we got the system date here, and then we have parentheses, and after that we have the rest of the information. Up in the top, we only just have sys date. So when I do that, I just get the default where the year is first, followed by the month, followed by the day. That's the difference. So if you insert this, now notice how I have these backticks here, backtick R. I'm able to insert this R code in the YAML header as well. And so this will allow me to always have the latest date every time I renew or refresh this document. So I don't have to put it in manually every single time I make a change or every time I want to update the document. So first you start with double quotes and then not single quotes, but backtick. Then you put R like normal, you put your function like this, and you can close it out. If you want to modify things, you can do something along these lines down here. It's really up to you how you approach it. So that is how you're able to put the date not only inside the text, but also you can put the date inside the actual YAML header. Again, using the double quotation marks and then using the single backticks to wrap around your function as well. So for our next trick here, we're going to look at how to load packages here. And so there's a little bit of information that I need to share in order for this to make sense. Okay, so with this one, you can see clearly that we have something inside our curly brackets, include equals F or false. And so when you use the argument false, it prevents the code and the results from appearing in the actual file. So in other words, what we're going to do here is we're going to load the library, or excuse me, the package of dplyr, and we're going to create this object here called more than 20 miles per gallon, which is coming from the MT cars data set. And we're just going to filter for any car that averages more than 20 miles per gallon. But what's going to happen is that when I run this, you're not going to see anything in the output. In other words, off to the right, everything that you see now is what you're going to continue to see. But this code is going to be ran and there will be nothing at the bottom below date. The only thing that you're going to see, well, actually, you're not going to see anything because I didn't even put the heading. But I'm going to put the heading here so that you can see that we did do something. So I'll put the heading right here at the top. All right. And so remember that in order to make an R chunk, you got to use the 3 backticks, then curly braces, put the R inside it as a minimum. This is an optional argument that we're adding so that we don't see the output or the code. And then we're going to run this code right here in line 17, 18 and close it out with the the backticks again. So we're going to run this. And so it's going to take a second. Remember, it has to jump on the internet for a second to get that image. And so you can see that the output for the code is not there. The only thing that is there is this heading because we added this heading right here in line 14. So that's it. And so everything, there's an object inside my R environment right now called more underscore than 20 mpg. It's there, but it's not in the output. So this is a way where you can run code almost, you could say secretly, if you want to call it that. And it allows you to see it and to use it as a later reference. Okay, so here's our next little trick here. What I'm doing now is I'm using code in a text, and I kind of talked about that earlier with how you can do this right here with the date. This is not just for the YAML header, you can also do it in text. And we've looked at this before, I believe, in a prior video. So what's happening here is I'm writing this here, the average weight for cars with the average of more than 20 miles per gallon, and then I put the code right here. This is the code. Now look very, very carefully. I have this backtick again, like I've been talking about many, many times. I hope you can see that. Then I have R, then I have my actual function with the stuff inside it. Now the stuff inside the mean function, this right here, this guy right here, more than 20 miles per gallon, this is the object I made earlier up in line 18. So but remember, you can't see what I did in line 18. It's kind of behind the scenes. But because I developed it, or because I created it, I can call it later on, and I can do calculations on it. So that's what's happening right here. So I'm taking the weight, I'm finding the average weight from my object that I created called more underscore than 20 miles per gallon. So that's what's happening there. Now, after the or here, this is the same thing I just did, but I'm not making the object. I'm calling the original MT cars object, which is the original one, and I'm just using some dplyr, some pipes, if you will, to filter everything. So what I'm trying to show you is that there's more than one way to do these things. You can create objects that are hidden, or you can just put all the code right here. Now, yeah, this is hard to read. This is hard to understand when you share it with somebody, but it is possible. That's what we need to understand here. So let's go ahead and run this, and you're going to see the same number twice because I'm just doing it two different ways. All right. So, oh, whoops, hold on. Oh, I didn't put my back tick here. Sorry about that. Okay, I'll run that again. So just give it a second. It's still thinking. All right, so if you look at the bottom, I know that's kind of hard to see, but you can clearly see that we have the same number here. The average weight for cars with an average of more than 20, there's a typo there, more than 20 miles per gallon is 2.418, or 2.418, you can see the rest of the numbers there. So you can see each time I got the same number, irregardless of what kind of code that I chose to use. It doesn't really matter. But again, you have to be aware of these options so you can find what works best for you. Now, for the last one, you're not really going to see anything, but this is kind of a teaser for future videos, if you will. And I want to just show you here how it is possible that you can actually name your chunks. So you can see right here, I say the name goes here. That's what I'm just calling it for fun. And what's going to make this valuable is that in future posts, I will show you how you can use these names in your table of contents and referring to things, etc. So we're just going to run this for now. Give it a second. And you're not going to see anything, but you will see the output from MT cars because I put that in as the object that I want to see. So again, this will become valuable in the future. So I just have the heading, that's from line 26, that's right here. And then I put a little piece of information in line 27, that's right here. And then MT cars was printed out. And so this is kind of a teaser for future videos, if you will. So why don't we go back and review what we learned and conclude this video. So in this video, we learned several different things. We learned how to insert images. And of course, you can see the handiwork right here at the top, the picture of a violin. We also learned about how to manipulate the date in the YAML header so you don't have to update it manually. This is what you can see right here. So the backtick R, this indicates you're making using a function. And you can also modify, if you don't like the year, date, month, you can change it if you want. We took a look at how to hide the output and actually how to hide the code if you want to. So by doing a comma, then include equals false, this is hidden from the output and the code is not shared either, but it could be useful if you want to provide a calculation for future use, depending on your style of coding. Then we learned about how to use code and text, So backtick, we already kind of learned this right here. This is one way to do it. Notice how I use my object that I created earlier. And then of course I provided an alternative where you just put use all the piping that you want from tidyverse to do the same thing. Again, the second one is harder to read, but you got to figure out what works for you. And then lastly, we learned about how to name chunks, code chunks. And so that's kind of what we have, a little teaser right here. And this can be useful in the future, as you will see. So again, I want to thank you very much for watching and listening. My name is Darren Thomas. I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. You take care.